Now, before I get into this video, the obvious question would be, why should you, a guy, care that women are so unhappy? The reason I'm saying this is because 95 or 97% of my audience is male, right? So very few women are going to be watching this video, and therefore very few women would, very few of my audience members would care that women are so unhappy, right? But actually, it's important to understand why women in the Western democracies are so unhappy. Because you who are a guy, if you understand why the women you're surrounded with are so unhappy, you'll be able to look away from these women and find women who are happy and therefore can make you happy. Because you will never find happiness with somebody who is fundamentally unhappy. You will never find happiness, true joy and satisfaction with someone who is just miserable with the life that they are leading. It's impossible, okay? In order to be happy with a woman, you have to find a content woman, a woman who is not miserable. And women in the West are miserable, and for reasons I'm going to get into in this video. Now, why would you want to find a happy woman? Well, because finding a woman who will be the mother of your children, who will, with you, work to create a family, that's how you find true happiness, true satisfaction. You see, it's all good and fine to say that you're a lone wolf, and a lot of guys can live on their own and just, be by themselves in their whole lives without the company of a woman, without building a family. And that happens. Many men are like that. I was like that for a long time. And then I got to a point where I realized I needed a family, and so I went and got myself a family. I have a family, and that's that. But the point I'm trying to make, is that most men need to build a family because that's what gives them true joy. But you will not be able to build a happy family if you're with an unhappy woman. And so I'm going to explain why these women are so unhappy. And from this explanation, you will be able to understand why so many of the women around you are just out of the picture. You're just not going to be able to make a happy life with them, and you should turn elsewhere to find true joy with a woman. Okay? Okay, so let's get started. Now, it's self-evident that the women of the West are unhappy. I mean, you see, I don't need to point to studies or anything like that. I can point to this. I can point to, how many women are taking antidepressants? How many women are just getting drunk, young women especially, are getting drunk every weekend and drinking during the week, excessively. They might not get, smashed on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but they get pretty tipsy, right? And the weekends, well, that's when all bets are off, right? Right. I mean, we all know that. And insofar as drugs are concerned, same thing. See all these women who are so fat? Yeah. I mean, they're at home and they're watching TV and they eat a pint of ice cream all by themselves and then decide that they want a second pint and then a third pint. And by the fourth pint, they're crying into their tub of ice cream, miserable as they're scooping the ice cream into their mouths and becoming these enormously fat women. What do you think that is? That they're happy? That they have incredible joy in their life and that's why they're crying into their tub of ice cream? No! They are fucking unhappy. They are unhappy. And unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but society has made them unhappy. Okay? So why are they so unhappy? Why are these women so miserable? Well, very simple. See, men and women are happy when they are together building a family. Now, this is the natural order of things. And it doesn't matter really if you are a creationist who believes every word of the Bible or a strict atheist evolutionary guy who knows, that it's just, a natural selection. Either course, either explanation leads to the same conclusion. Men and women have been either designed or evolved to be together and to find happiness and satisfaction being together as they build a family. If men and women did not find any kind of satisfaction being together and having children, we would not exist today. Our grandparents and great-grandparents and all the way back, they wouldn't have made it and had the offspring that eventually led to us if they had been so miserable, okay? The natural order of things is for a man and a woman to be together and to have children and to form a family and to build a nice little home and be happy. And most of the times, they were happy. They were very happy. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at us. We are the descendants of generally happy people, okay? Right. Now, today, what's the problem? Well, today, women have been socialized into seeking things that do not make them happy, okay? They seek things, careers, quote-unquote personal satisfaction, all kinds of nonsense that do not make them happy. And more to the point, they have been encouraged not to seek those things that traditionally and in the past have given women enormous satisfaction. And what are those things? Well, having children and a family, you see? That's what makes women truly happy. And I see it all the time. I see where I'm living now, right? Here we have, I'm living in Ukraine, and the quote, gender roles are strict. Men are men and women are women. And women care for children and have children. And the women strolling around with their little kids are obviously happy. They are happy with their situation. But in the Western democracies, what's going on? Well, they've been told, they've been encouraged to forgo having children and to focus on their careers. To focus on their careers and their personal development, i.e. their education, in order to improve their chances in the job market, to study more and learn more and more degrees and postpone having children and maybe not even have children for the sake of their careers, to do better as a lawyer or a doctor or whatever the hell, right? Women, and notice, they're constantly encouraged to go into sciences, STEM fields, and all the rest of it, right? What exactly is the point of that? Why are they so encouraged in that direction? Very simple. See, I hate to say it, but feminism, when it came out as an ideology, well, feminism had a lot to do with it, but it wasn't on its own. See, a lot of people say, oh, it's feminism's fault. Feminism did it. Feminism ruined everything. And were it not for feminism, we would live in this Eden of the sexual relationships between men and women, right? No, that's not true. Because feminism on its own didn't do the job of ruining women. What it was a combination of feminism and this neoliberal capitalism that we have. And let me explain. You see, traditionally, in the past, in the Western democracies, men went out to work at the factories or at the offices or whatever, and the women stayed home to take care of the children, right? In more poor communities, rural communities, the women often had to help out, but they helped out around the house. They worked in the home, doing all those domestic tasks and domestic chores, including taking care of the children, of course, that were necessary for rural existence. And the men were out in the field, farming. Right, that's how it worked. That was the division of labor, the gender roles, right? What happened in World War II? Well, all the men went off to war. And so all these factory jobs and all these office positions were vacated because the men were off fighting in Europe and the Pacific Theater, right? At least in the United States. And so because of this, all these women entered the labor pool. People discovered something obvious, especially the people in financial leadership, the oligarchs. They discovered that for many tasks, in fact, most tasks, the situation, the economy, the technology was such that it didn't matter really if it was a man or a woman doing the task. And think about it, like a lawyer's brief. Who cares if a woman lawyer made it or a male lawyer made it? It's the same brief, right? And a lot of factory jobs, well, it didn't really depend on being physically that strong because you had the machine to do it for you. You had the forklift, for instance, to raise up stuff, and you had the machine pounding out doodads or widgets or whatever. You just had to have somebody who would shove in the raw material at the right moment. And the process of shoving in the raw material didn't really demand that much strength, right? So women could do it. And with that discovery that women could do these jobs, well, when all the men came back from the war, those women were sort of like sidelined in the economy, right? They went back to having babies, and that's why we had the baby boom, right? They went home, they had babies. You had the whole Levittown explosion of suburbia and all the rest of it during the 40s and the 50s. But the seed was planted. See, if these women could somehow be encouraged to return to the labor force, what would happen? What happens when all of a sudden you have a lot more people looking for work? Well, the price of labor goes down. Supply and demand, baby, right? Right. So if women were somehow encouraged to return to the workforce, and instead of having babies, to sacrifice those fertile years for the sake of their career, of the sake of, working for a company and therefore driving down prices, now that would be a good thing, now wouldn't it? Sure it would. It would be an excellent thing, especially for the people owning those factories, those law firms, those, IBM, the owners of IBM, the owners of the oligarchs. It would be good for them because it would drive down the price of labor. See? That's the issue. That's always been the issue. Now, in parallel to this, during the 50s and 60s, what emerged? Feminism. Betty Friedan did that stupid book that basically shit all over being the feminine mystique, right? It shit all over being a housewife. It shit all over the idea of being a mother, because Betty Friedan hated being a mother. And she wrote a book about her hatred of being a mother and how everybody should go out and work. And what happened? This book got enormous press. And because of this enormous press, because the mainstream media pushed this narrative so hard, people started thinking, oh, maybe this is a good idea. And this is how feminism, third wave feminism particularly, second and third wave, started to emerge. Second wave. Second wave and third wave feminism emerged during the 60s and 70s and 80s. And what did they encourage? They encouraged women to study more, get more education, more qualifications, and go into the labor pool during their 20s and their 30s. And what's the 20s and 30s? Well, that's the period when women are most fertile. That's when they can have the most babies, right? But they weren't encouraged to have babies. They were encouraged to forgo having children and instead focus on their careers. Now, feminism as an ideology is idiotic. I mean, anybody with even, a first year in philosophy student will tell you right off the bat that feminism is an incoherent set of principles. It doesn't make sense internally. It's nonsensical in a most literal sense. Now, it's not unusual for incoherent ideologies to emerge. In fact, they arise all the time. All the time. We just don't notice them because most of the time these ideas are so stupid that we just ignore them. And feminism, the core ideas, a lot of the core ideas of third wave feminism in particular would have been ignored and just thrown by the wayside as being idiotic, as so many ideas and philosophical and intellectual frameworks are discarded because most of them are not very coherent and not very logical. But feminism made a lot of sense in this neoliberal economic paradigm that we're living in. It made a lot of sense because it encouraged women to go against their most natural impulses of having children, having a family, finding a man and building a home with that man. This natural tendency that women have of finding a guy and getting pregnant and having a bunch of kids and having a home and being happy. That is the natural inclination of women. And again, like I said before, it doesn't matter if you are a hardcore creationist or a hardcore atheist who believes in evolution. It doesn't matter because the end result is the same. This is the natural source of happiness and joy for women. That's what makes them happy, to have a family of their own. Not working on their career, not working at some office. It might give transitory happiness to women. A little bit of, satisfaction that they did this, but, the workaday grind, it doesn't make them happy because it doesn't make anybody happy. Because men are not happy pursuing their career. Do you think that the lawyer who's a partner at some big time firm, who has to grind away every fucking day on this trivial shit, of legal work. Do you think he's happy doing that? Do you think that he's getting enormous satisfaction out of his quote-unquote career? No, he just looks at it like, shit, I gotta go to fucking work, yeah, and I gotta do this shit, but I need the fucking money to support myself, my woman, and my children, so I go and I sacrifice my time to get the money. I sacrifice my time that I could be devoting to my woman and my children. I'll sacrifice that time to the law firm so I can get the money. Guys are not happy in their careers, yeah? And women aren't either, okay? I don't need anybody to tell me this. I don't need studies to know this is a fact. Nobody is happy, but we do it because it's necessary to get the money. However, see, a guy can go off to work and not see his kids all day because children, especially small children, depend on their mothers. They depend on their mothers, especially in the first 5, 6 years, okay? And really, the first 10 years. They need their mother. Their father, they can see them, and the father is really important after the age of 10. Once they hit puberty, and once the child starts adolescence and starts moving into the world, that's when they really need their father, right? But when they're little, they need their mother. But their mother is being encouraged to go to the workforce because of feminism, because of the mainstream propaganda that it's supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to be a good thing for women to abandon their children for the sake of their career. They're being encouraged to do this, right? Now, the thing is, though, why would women do this? Why would women be fool enough to listen to this bullshit? Well, here we go into an issue of human nature that a lot of people don't want to accept, but which is absolutely true. You see, women like to comply with the people around them. They don't like to make waves. I mean, if you're studying psychology, there's the idea of agreeableness, and women are fundamentally high in agreeableness. That is, they're willing to change for the sake of those around them. They are willing to change their behavior. They are willing to change even their ideas and principles for the sake of conforming and complying with the people around them. And it's a natural state of women, see? There's a YouTuber I know, and I like this YouTuber, by the way. I think that she's a wonderful woman. And she's friends with people, with a whole bunch of people on the YouTube scene. And some of these people are enemies. And she'll hang out with both of them. And when she's with them, she'll start changing her opinion to get along with the person that she's with, right? And you think, well, she's betraying the other guy. No, that's naive. That's stupid. It's not that she's quote unquote betraying anybody. No, that's not how women work. Women, when they're with somebody, they want to be agreeable to them. They want to comply with them. They want to be with the in-group, wherever that in-group happens to be. And so they will trim their sails in order to comply. And it's perfectly natural. I like, for instance, there's another YouTuber, Christy Winters. I like her very much. She's a wonderful woman. She's a wonderful woman, but I understand her. She actually doesn't believe the feminism that she's spouting. I know that for a fact. I can tell. Okay, because she's a very smart woman, and the times I pointed out inconsistencies in the ideology that she's purportedly believes in, she sort of like agrees, but in spite of herself. And I know this for a fact, but the problem is that, see, her entire social circle and her professional milieu depends on her spouting this feminist bullshit. She doesn't even believe it, but she's spouting it anyway. She's spouting it anyway because she needs to in order to stay in good with the people around her. Or let me phrase that. She thinks she needs to in order to stay in good with the people around her. Because she's a woman. Because that's how women are. Women, in order to conform to their environment, they will change their minds. And they will say things that in their heart of heart, they do not believe. They will. Because that's the nature of women. And so what's happened in the Western democracies is that the educated women who were force-fed this feminist ideological bullshit, well, because most women are compliant by nature, high in agreeableness if you're a psychologist, well, because of their willingness to comply with their environment and the people in their environment, they lapped up this feminist bullshit that was encouraged by oligarchs, that was encouraged by neoliberal economic policy in order to bring in more women into the workforce, in order to lower the cost of labor. This is the same reason, for instance, that the mainstream media is so in favor of immigration. They don't give a shit about multiculturalism. It has nothing to do with multiculturalism. It has everything to do with lowering the price of labor. You go to Silicon Valley, half, 2/3 of the engineers there are South Asians and East Asians on H-1B1 visas. Why do you think that they're there? To lower the price of labor. This is what's going on in the Western democracies. See, they're so hell-bent for leather on lowering the cost of labors in order to improve profitability that they have imported foreign workers. They have, brainwashed women into going into the workforce and foregoing happiness, the happiness of having a family and children of her own. They have brainwashed her into going into the workforce, right? Right, that's what's going on. It's very, very simple, and that's why women are so unhappy. That's why women are so unhappy, because they are acting in ways that are unnatural for them, but they are trying to comply with the society around them. The society of the Western democracies has socialized women into complying with a paradigm that makes them profoundly unhappy. But see, their desire and need to be agreeable, to comply with their social milieu, forces them to contort themselves and contort their lives into misery. That's why you have all these fat women who are so unhappy. I mean, somebody who's weighing 300 pounds, it's not because they're happy. They're miserable. That's why they eat so goddamn much. And that's why they're drunk on the weekends. And that's why they are so loud and aggressive. Have you noticed? They're so loud and aggressive. Why? That's insecurity and unhappiness. Because they are insecure in their position, because they are doing things that are not natural to their sex. And they are profoundly unhappy with that. That insecurity and happiness combines to create these aggressive, nasty women that you don't want to be around, okay? It's only when you leave the West that you realize that the Western women are crazy. They've gone out of their fucking minds. That's what's going on, see? But of course, they don't believe you when you tell them this. They don't, and they'll never believe you. Okay? Yeah, I mean, you can argue with them till you're blue in the face, and they are not going to believe that this is what's going on, but it is. And so, since my audience is mostly guys, I'm telling you, okay? This is what's going on. So, your best bet is to avoid these unhappy women. Many of you, I'm sure, have spent most of your lives around these unhappy women, and you assume that that's normal. It's not. It's not normal. These incredibly unhappy women, especially the more educated women who are so unhappy, so miserable with the lives that they are leading, it's not normal. Believe me. It is not normal for them to be this unhappy. It is not normal for them to be this aggressive. It is not normal for them to try to find some semblance of happiness by being drunkards, by being sluts, by being these 800-pound whales, by being these drug addicts, by taking antidepressants. It is not normal. Now, what you have to do is you have to get out of that milieu with all these unhappy women, these damaged women, these broken women. Get out of that milieu and go to places where you will find normal women. I've been in Eastern Europe, and the women here seem to be fine. They seem to understand perfectly well that they are women and what their role is of being a woman. They understand that being a woman is a complement to being a man, not a competition. Because a woman competing with a man, she'll always lose. Because men and women are different. And so for her to contort herself and try to compete with men is just stupid. She's not going to win. But they tried. Anyway, the point is, you have to go get away from these unhappy, damaged, miserable women in the West, and you have to go to a place where you can find happy women. And from what I understand, Asia, that's a place to go. I've talked to a bunch of guys who are like in Vietnam and in China and Japan, and they say that the women are happy there. I can tell you here in Eastern Europe, they're happy. In Belarus, Ukraine, the Baltic republics, Russia, Poland, Hungary, they're happy. They're very happy because they know their role. They know that they are women and that their happiness will come from having children with a man that they respect, a man who will have no trouble being a man. Do you know why there are so many soy boys? Because you know what the soy boy is? He's the guy who's contorting himself to be appealing to these unhappy women. That's what he is. The soy boy, the guy who's so subservient and passive-aggressive, this little eunuch. He is the man who's been surrounded by these unhappy women in the West and has contorted himself so that these women will like him. And of course, these women hate him because he is the epitome of what they do not want. Because no woman, no normal, healthy woman wants a eunuch for a mate. She wants a man. She wants a man who will tell her what's what and where to go. But, you know, the women in the West, they've been brainwashed. And that's why they're so unhappy. Okay? Look, this video, it's been a little bit rambling and ranting and all over the place, but I hope you get the point. See? Don't think that the unhappy women that surround you are normal. That's the lesson I want you I want to end with here. Don't think that those women are normal, because they are not. They are not. They are fucking insane. They are damaged irretrievably. So you have to go to a place and find a woman who is not damaged. Go to a place where the women are not insane. Go to a place where the women are happy, and you will find happiness.